Hey there. We've challenged each family in the congregation here at Rome to study a book of the Bible in 2019. And during our Sunday morning Bible class, I present my findings from the book we're studying that week, and we talk about any questions people might have from that book. This week, we're in the book of Kings. And while Kings is anonymous, we can gather some things about when the author lived by where his book stops. And since the last things Kings mentions is Jehoiachin, king of Judah, going into Babylonian exile as a prisoner, we can reasonably assume the author of Kings was writing during the exile, but right before Cyrus allowed the Jews to return home, since he does not mention that momentous move. Because of the way things have unfolded for God's people, the author wants to explain some things. So he's going to use his book to tell them why God has broken his promises to Israel. He's going to level at least two different accusations against Israel, with the end goal of proving to the nation that it is they, not God, who has broken covenant. The first of these accusations is the centralized place of worship that Deuteronomy details for us. Moses tells them that one day God will put away the portable tabernacle for a permanent place of worship. When that happens, all of Israel is supposed to come to that place to worship. We know that place was the temple in Jerusalem. The author of Kings is going to go out of his way to show that both the northern nation of Israel and the southern nation of Judah have broken this command. The northern nation of Israel worshiped these false gods at places called Dan and Bethel because Jeroboam set them up at the beginning of his reign. For the next 200 years, until they go into Assyrian captivity, the northern nation will worship at Dan and Bethel instead of at Jerusalem. The southern nation of Judah worships at the temple, but they also worship at the high places. These were the altars the Canaanites had set up on the mountains to worship at, and the Jews took over this practice when they moved into the land. So neither nation completely followed the command to worship God at the temple. The second accusation the author of Kings is going to level at Israel is aimed at the monarchy. The king was supposed to serve as the religious leader of Israel. Kings traces out what the northern and the southern kings did with this responsibility. Not a single one of the northern kings were righteous men. Every single one of them led immoral and idolatrous lives, and the Kings records many of the details for us. Even David's descendants, who sat on the Judah's throne in the southern nation, weren't much better. Some were evil men just like their northern cousins, but a few were good men, and even a smaller set were righteous men. But these few could not turn the tide of centuries of abuse. The author of Kings' main point is that the Jews were not in this position because God hadn't been faithful. In fact, they were in exile because they had not been faithful. Throughout the book, you also are going to see the author pointing out the effectiveness of the prophetic word. He wants to assure his people that God's word is powerful and true. In fact, the exile is proof that God had told Israel what would happen if they did not follow his commands. Now, after disobeying him for centuries, Israel has seen his words come true. So after the author of Kings has so magnificently made his case that the fault lies with Israel, not with God, you might be amazed to find the final words of the blessing of David's descendants, Jehoiachin, king of Judah, by the Babylonian king, releasing him from prison and inviting him to sit at his own table, a sure sign of blessing. This provides a glimmer of hope for Israel, that God has not left them, but that this is only a punishment, and his kindness will return to them. And that's why the book of Kings is so vitally important.